Hey guys, this is Strength Coach Friedman with the Strength Coach Friedman podcast. Today I am joined with my good friend Starjay, who has worked in the fitness industry for a number of years. He's worked as a personal trainer as well as a group fitness instructor. So could you just tell everyone a little bit about your experiences in the field, and if you have any advice for individuals that are looking to get into the training world or becoming a group fitness instructor?
Wow, that's a beautiful introduction, Mark. Listen, thank you, and I'm glad to be on your show.
Great to have you.
Thank you. All right, so my journey begins around 2006. What happened was a friend of mine, he was playing basketball for the Suffolk Community College basketball team, and he was looking to go Division I, out of Suffolk, which hadn't been done ever. And he called me and he was crying, like, I'm not going to make it, I'm not going to get to where I want to go. And I'd been studying the game my whole life, and it was something I was just always fascinated in. I would literally watch every basketball video you could think of, and I would just rewind and fast forward and rewind. And I was so meticulous in studying the game that I knew I could help him. And I was like, literally just said, yeah, no problem, we're working tomorrow. I never trained anybody in my life other than working out at the gym, on my own. Had no idea what I was going to do. I just knew it would come to me. I just had the confidence in myself to do it. So one thing I could tell you to start off with is confidence. Be sure of yourself even if you're not sure of the situation. So then from there, I trained him for about 3 weeks. It's only 3 weeks. It was like during like the winter session, I believe, like winter break. And we were working out, he was going through drills that he had never seen. And he had played, again, he's playing college basketball. He had never seen these drills. He played high school, college, hadn't seen any of the drills that I was giving him. One of the times we were outside, the gym was closed. So we went to a park outside. It was like -3 degrees. And we're doing drills. And, just getting his mind prepared for all types of conditions, strengthened his resolve. So 3 weeks goes by. He plays his first game. He gives me a call. He's like, yo, you're a genius. I'm like, thank you, but like, what did I do? And he was like, I had the best game of my life. I've never played like that before. The game felt easy. Like, it's never felt easy for me. And I'm like, I told you. So then from there, and he had a great work ethic to begin with, so that's what made the push even easier. Now, what I could tell anybody that's working with a client, you want to find out what motivates them, what's their motivating factor. Because everyone's motivation is different. You got to find out, is it something that it could be, based off of vanity. It could be something based off of just their inner drive. Not everyone has drive, so you can't force someone to have something that isn't there. But you can kind of show them the steps to have that internal motivating factor, which I feel personally, from my experience, internal motivation lasts longer than external motivation. Because external motivation may be greater initially, but it doesn't last long. Internal is what moves you. So then, when we go back to the story, so back to 2006 to now, it's now 2007. It was the end of 2006. 2007 comes around. He's getting college offers from Suffolk Community College. So then he plays in a showcase. He gets a call, and he told me it was a Division I school. And he was shocked. He's like, I got a D1 offer. He was going to go with it. Then another school offered him another like scholarship or whatever, and he took that one, and he's the first player and only player since to go from Suffolk Community College to play for a Division I program. And he played there for 2 years, tried out for the development league and everything, and played semi-pro basketball. NBA was our goal. He didn't get there, but he's successful in what he's doing now. He's in the financial world. And all the steps that he learned from that journey has helped him venture out and do well in that other journey. So then from there, 2008 comes around. I wanted to actually be a yoga instructor. I was big into yoga. Yoga was the thing. I was a huge fan of the Josh Hartnett, Harrison Ford movie Hollywood Homicide. And Josh Hartnett's character was a yoga instructor, and he was like getting all the girls. So I was like, all right, let me start doing yoga just to pick up girls. That's that's the motivation for men. Some men have that motivation for that. So wanted to be a yoga instructor. And my barber at the time was like, why don't you become a trainer? And I was like, a trainer? I'm like, I train basketball players. That's about it. Like, I don't want to work in the gym. Because, my perception of trainers were big brolic guys that, brolic meaning muscular, like big jack guys that were, like, all right, another set. All right, 10 more. There you go. That was just my perception. So I was like, that's not what I do. I want to be a little more deeper than that. Like, I don't fit that mold. Be like, you should do it. I'm like, all right. So I called the gym. Didn't get anything. Then I was like, you know what? Let me call it. And I didn't like the rejection factor. So I'm like, yeah, let me keep calling. And I was very persistent. So finally, I'd given up. Literally the day I gave up, they're like, oh, can you come for an interview tomorrow? And I'm like, shit, my hair's all fucked up. I'm looking crazy. But I'm like, you know what? Let me call my barber. Let me see what I could do. I'm like, listen, and I told him, I'm like, listen, can you come in early? I'll tip you extra. Like, can you come in at 7 in the morning? I know it's early, but can you do it? He's like, yeah, I got you, sure. So 7 o'clock comes, get my hair cut and everything like that. I go in there with a suit and a resume. And I'm going to a gym, and everyone's looking at me like, were you trying to buy the place or something? And they saw that right away, and they were like, okay, this guy's a little different. And so then we were speaking about, just having that conversation why I can help a gym. And I had interned in political office. So my mentality when it came to interviews and things like that was very proper. I see, like, the fitness manager at the time, like, they were in sweatpants. I was like, oh, okay, what kind of job, like, interviews you in sweatpants? Like, this is very different than what I'm used to. So, I landed a job, just all the paperwork I had to go through. So then November 2008, I became a trainer at New York Sports Club. And what that did, I remember walking in the first day, and I saw a board of all the trainers that were there, and I saw their numbers, and I saw mine. I had 0, and I was like, listen, I'm going to fill that thing up. And I knew it right there, and I painted that picture in my head. I'm like, I'm going to fill it up. And how I was going to do it, I had no idea, but I knew I was going to do it. I felt it. And going to a gym, and one thing when you don't have that environment, because training athletes, I didn't have all the proper equipment, so everything was more skill driven. We did like plyometric work and things that I had done just for my own personal use. But it was a lot, more freeform than being in a facility. So once I saw there was BOSU balls, because the gym I had been to before was a weightlifting gym. It was all like just weights. So when I saw BOSU balls, Swiss balls, all these different things, I was like, wow, this is the stuff I've seen in like the UFC workouts. Which I was doing at the time, more metabolic conditioning and everything. And I was getting away from the bodybuilding style of training because I felt like I'm not trying to be a bodybuilder. It's hindering my sports activity. So going there, I was like, wow, this is great. So when you start off with anything, there's a certain naivete that people have where it's like, wow, this is the place. I'm here. And you get jaded as you go along the journey. And that happens with anybody. That happens in life. The thing I could tell you is always keep that naivete, because there's going to be someone that comes in just like you that's going to have the same mentality or even a different mentality that's going to want you to be their mentor. And if you just become the jaded person, you're going to get passed up real quick. They'll pass you up in a week. If they're good. So then doing that, I did the training thing, built the business very slowly, very slowly. There's a lot of politics involved, but there was levels to reach. There was an apprenticeship, as they called it. You reach one level, and I was like, all right, let me get that level. Then there was another level, all right, let me get that level. And the way I was training, just growing up the way I grew up, it was always about you wanted to stand out and differentiate yourself without looking like you were trying to put that much effort into it. Because the people that do that, they come off very try-hard. My personality naturally is one of, if I see somebody do 5 things, I already see 50 ways to do it. So learning the game is very important, so that way you can break the rules in the game and make it your own game. And a lot of people, when you're in training, you come in with a certain style, per se. When as you evolve, you lose that sense of style and become whole. You become fluid. And that's what training really is. It's about being fluid, not being rigid. The person that's just, I'm the bodybuilder trainer, well, unless you're training bodybuilders specifically, you're going to have a tough time. If you're like, I just train athletes, unless you're just training athletes, you're going to have a tough time. So you have to know also where you are, where, is that location right for you? Because just because you're in a specific situation and it's great, like you're learning the game, may not be right for you to stand out and show your genius. So don't limit yourself either. But at the same time, challenge yourself. Because to go out of your comfort zone, you get new ideas to bring into your comfort zone.
It's a lot of good stuff. So, more specifically into what you did at the gym. So I know, so you worked as a trainer, which is awesome. And then I know you made that switch, or at least started to break into the group training world. Can you explain a little bit about, what is group training? How does it differ from personal training? And how did you handle group training as opposed to the way most people who teach group training classes do in this industry?
Okay, perfect question. All right. So when I started with Group X, right, group exercise. Group exercise is you're training multiple people. You're training multiple people at the same time. You're teaching a class. You're being an instructor to them and guiding them through their fitness experience. When I started it, I would cover classes like when I started training, the trainers were required to do a 30-minute class of like core or a boot camp. It was core, boot camp then core to be exact. And I cover those classes, just to get my feet wet and just to build a business. But I saw, I'm like, you know what? The mentality that these gyms have you do is, if you're a Group X instructor, they feel it's easier for you to get clients once you become a trainer. Because like, all right, you already know me from being the group world, you're going to want to train with me. And have I gotten clients from that? Sure. Is it as easy and smooth a transition as people say it is? Not at all. Because a lot of times there's a lot of aspects behind a Group X where certain trainers could designate their clients to you. So then if you're, promoting your service as a trainer, you don't want to solicit their clients either. You want to help build that relationship. And like, listen, you're this, say Mark and I are training and I'm teaching Group X and Mark brings his client over to me because he trusts me and trusts my vision of how I do things. I'm going to make sure I take care of his client. So then, when he or she goes back to Mark, there's no injuries, there's only improvement, it's only furthering the process of progress. Pardon me for stumbling my words. So, with group exercise is a very interesting, experience because a lot of group exercise is done rhythmically. I don't teach that way. I never have.
So when you say rhythmically, you mean to particular music. So there'd be a song and the exercise would match the tempo of that song?
Correct. Now the problem with music is this. If you're having music and you're doing a bicep curl to a particular rhythm, you're gonna be so focused on the rhythm and doing movement, you're not looking at the gains. You're moving for the sake of moving. You're not moving for progression. So a lot of times in my classes, I always say up the weight. Don't worry about a count. I'm not beat centric. I'm exercise centric. I'm improvement centric. So that already separated me from others. And also too, that was just another thing when I said differentiate yourself from your people. Because why would someone else, if you're going to my class, what's going to separate me from somebody else? If I'm doing the same thing, if I'm just having you exercise to a beat, and we all copy, great artists steal. We all do. And I've taken things from people. I've taken things from Mark. And I've incorporated it into my classes. The difference with myself is, if Mark comes into class and this has happened, I let him know, this is the guy where I got it from. Because you want to give back also, let him know, like, listen, this guy showed me. Trust, if I'm doing this, I believe in it. So that way you can go to this person and train. But, the thing, there's negatives to Group X. I could bring the negatives up. The negatives about group exercise is that the progression doesn't happen as often. People think, all right, let me just take more classes. But you're taking more classes, you're not lifting heavier weights, you're just doing the same exercises, pattern overload occurs. So with that, you want to add different exercises, do corrective work in them. So small group training has become very popular within the last few years. And small group training is similar to the style that I taught as Group X. So when small group training came about, they were like, this is the big thing. It's small group training. You just have music in the background and you're working out and you're pushing each other and making a team-friendly environment. And I'm like, I've been doing that for like the last 4 years. That's just what I've been doing. Only because I didn't have the same skills of choreography that these other instructors had for 20 years. I'm not going to make myself look bad trying to do what they do. I can't beat them at their game. I can only play my game. But I'm going to take pieces of what they do and incorporate it to what I do.
That's a lot of good information, Star J. Quick note from myself on group training. I think group training has its benefits, but I think it's important to know what kind of group training class you're taking and what you're looking to get out of it. Like Star J said, the progression is a bit of a challenge. When you're working one-on-one with a trainer, the trainer should be taking notes on what you're doing, how many repetitions, how much weight, the repetition tempo, your rest periods, collecting a variety of data that really explain what your training session is, and then how to improve upon that training session, how to progress you further. The issue with group training, even if the instructor would like to progress everyone, there's always new people joining. Mm-hmm. So you always have brand new faces. And because these people are brand new, you can't really push them to the level you might want to. So you may have people that come in your class for a few years, right, and they know the drill. But then you have brand new people, and you can never really take it to the level that those people that have been doing it for longer should do, because you need to accommodate those individuals, those new individuals. Another challenge I see is, and this is something that I've experienced, I've never been a group exercise instructor. However, when I worked for the military, I sometimes would have to do some very large groups. I've had up to about 100 people at once that I was training. And a very real struggle is you can't watch everyone. It's impossible to really even see what all 100 people are doing at once and correct those individuals. So sometimes it's very common for individuals to be doing exercises incorrectly in the group training. And if the class is large, even if the instructor is the greatest instructor in the world, if they don't have the time to sit down with each individual and teach them the proper technique, things aren't going to get corrected. And now you keep practicing and you keep doing this time after time, doing them wrong, you're really going to teach yourself how to do these things incorrectly. And then sometimes I think once you learn something incorrectly, it's much harder to relearn it, because now you have to retrain someone. And retraining takes a lot more time than just training in the first place. So that is one of the other flaws with the group training. And sometimes injuries do arise. Sometimes people are doing things. That's the other thing. Sometimes people, they see everyone else doing something. They want to do it when they're not ready. If you're a 65-year-old woman who's new to exercise and there's a 26-year-old girl who's been doing this for several years, you might not want to do the same stuff. You might not be at the same level. And not just, regular age, but training age too. You might be the younger person, and you think, well, this 60-year-old woman's been, I can keep up with her, but maybe she's been doing this for 15 years. I've had clients, in their early 70s that could outlift the people that I was working with in their 20s and 30s because they had been doing it so much longer. So it's important to know your training age, and it just comes with the territory. The group training, it's motivational. People like it because it's a group. You get motivated. There's a fun atmosphere, but there's also downsides. One of the big downsides Star J mentioned is the tempo. When you're doing these group exercise classes, many times you're pacing to a song. And who says, this particular Katy Perry song is the perfect workout, the perfect song to match a workout to? Who says that the particular tempo of the song is supposed to dictate your exercise for your development? Repetition tempo and workout or training session tempo are very crucial to the results you're going to get. Now, I would say this is a little more critical at the higher level, a more serious individual who's training, so a serious athlete, a bodybuilder. Repetition tempo becomes very important. Every repetition really has 4 components. There's 4 contractions, essentially. 2 static and too dynamic. So if you're not maintaining this, the proper tempo on these repetitions, it's going to change the exercise. This tempo really dictates whether you're doing more of an endurance workout, a strength workout, an explosive workout. And this is something that kind of gets thrown by the wayside. Now, again, most elite athletes are not doing group training, and they probably shouldn't be. If you're an athlete and you have a very specific purpose, you should not be doing any kind of group training class. Now, I did see a video the other day, which I was kind of shocked by. There was this former U.S. Olympic sprinter who, I don't know if she was being paid, but she was promoting this group training style. It was a type of gym where they have this kind of, everything's group training. And this individual was saying this is what she was doing. And, me and another friend of mine were discussing this. We're both strength and conditioning coaches, and we were kind of shocked by this whole thing, because doing an hour-long class, you're doing a lot of the oxidative energy system. You're not doing phosphagen energy system stuff. You're the complete opposite end of the spectrum. So, for a high-level, highly specialized athlete like a 100-meter sprinter, you're doing yourself a disservice by doing that kind of long exercise based on the energy systems, because training those energy systems, it's going to change your entire physiology. Your things are going to modify. Your capillary density is going to change. Hormone levels are going to change. Muscle fiber is going to start to change. Right. A lot of things are going to happen. So again, if you're a general practitioner and you're looking to just get fit, have some fun, burn some calories, get yourself moving, I think group exercise can be a great option. But again, if you're a high-level athlete who's supposed to be specialized, why are you doing a generalized program?
Mark, I completely agree. And it's funny that you bring up a lot of things in a lot of the fights that I had. When I started out doing group exercise classes, I would notice that the instructors would just do the workout with them. And I'm not, I'll work it on my own time, because I'm not going to do this. I'm doing something different for my goals. So what I do in my classes is I coach and critique and make sure you're in the right alignment with certain exercises. And I do that because when I was starting out, I would literally just watch classes, and I would cringe when I see, oh, this person's squatting this way, this person's doing this way. It would bother me because they're not targeting them. Then when I got certified in group exercise, I learned that they consider that singling someone out. And that practice, again, it's what I said before, learn the game so you can break the rules. I said, screw this, for my business, I'm gonna coach you. I'm gonna make sure you're doing it right. There's some people in my classes I will not go over to because they're doing everything perfectly fine. And then there's some people I'll probably be there with them, not all the time, because again, I'm not gonna single them out and just cater to one person. But I'm gonna go through, the people that I'm like, all right, I gotta check her, I gotta check this one, I gotta check that one, I gotta check that one, I gotta check that one. So there's usually about 6 or 7 people in a class that I know I have to watch out for in terms of technique, versus just doing a whole workout with my class and then having break form during exercises, but me getting a great me sweating and doing all this stuff just to do a workout. I'm like, no, let me break convention a little bit. And again, that's small group training. Again, I'm not claiming to have invented small group training, because somebody somewhere invented the concept or popularized the concept. But I'll just say, from 2009 to 2012 or 13, whenever small group training became popular, I was teaching that way. And do I think it's funny that, Mark was bringing up, the athlete that's a sprinter doing the hour-long cardio circuit. I don't understand why the athlete would do that. Again, it could be for marketing purposes. I'm pretty sure it is. Maybe they don't have the knowledge base behind it. Maybe they feel that helped them, because there are some athletes that, there's a thing where they're talking about how powerlifting doesn't help athletes. And, that's something, there's a time and place. That's maybe another topic for another podcast. And, some athletes, does it make them better? Sure it does. Does it make some athletes worse? Sure it does. It really depends on the individual and how they're training, but it's also the practitioner and how they're practicing it, which is key. So that person doing that hour class, if they're doing that and getting results, maybe they should try it a different way and see if they get better results. I'm sure they will, because it's going to affect them in a more positive way. You know, it's almost like you're fighting who you are. It's almost like I'm trying to think of an analogy here. It's like the turkey that's trying to be an eagle. You're a turkey. You can't be an eagle. I understand you're a bird, but you're not an eagle. But hey, if you feel you're an eagle, what can I say? You know, this is your journey to live. I can just give you my expertise along the way, or my experience. I'm not going to say expertise, my experience. But I do agree with Mark when it comes to that, because with athletes, it's very specific to what their needs are. Because you have basically told the second you make that transition to being an athlete, you're telling your body, you're telling everything within yourself that, all right, I'm doing this specifically. I'm negating everything else. I'm not doing general stuff for my specific goal. Why would you generalize when you're telling yourself you're specializing?
That's very true, and I like that analogy you said with the birds. You know, in the case of this individual, this Olympic sprinter, she was a peregrine falcon, you know, and the world's fastest bird, and she was training like a penguin, you know. It just didn't make sense. But yeah, unfortunately, many times in fitness, people train in ways that do not make sense, even at the Olympic level. There's a lot of head coaches, and I've talked about this in previous podcasts. They are Olympic level coaches, but they're not strength and conditioning coaches. And there's a big distinction. So they don't understand the physiology of the body, the anatomy of the body. They're not looking at it from a body perspective. They're thinking, oh, well, you know, if you want to run, let's do some more running because you're a runner. And they don't really see the negative effects that this could be having, how you're despecializing the athlete. So, and I know in this particular case, this individual was saying how their coach was totally on board with it. And again, it didn't make sense to me. So either there was payment going on, or the coaches really didn't understand strength and conditioning and what their athlete really needed to be doing. So just because someone's been doing something a long time, or they're not, clearly she was doing something right. Don't get me wrong. You know, she's an Olympic level athlete. Clearly, you know, she's an amazing athlete. I'm not taken away from that by any means. But was she fulfilling her potential?
Right.
And that's the key thing. So in terms of group training, listen, if you're not, most people are not Olympic level athletes.
Right.
Most people, they want to go to the gym. They want to do something they enjoy. Okay. One of the reasons why a lot of people do group training is because it's fun. Right. They find working out by themselves to be kind of boring. So if you enjoy group training, if you enjoy those kinds of classes, by all means do it. But do it in a way that you're comfortable, do it in a way that's safe, and make sure you learn how to do the exercises prior to having to do them for speed in the group training. Because to be honest, a lot of the group training, RJ knows his stuff because he actually worked as a trainer and he comes from a strength and conditioning background with basketball. But many of these group instructors do not know how to do exercises properly. There are many exercises they do in group training they're not taught in their group training certifications. I don't think they usually teach them deadlifts and Olympic lifts in group training. Right. And yet some instructors incorporate this in. I just remember one of the companies I worked for, the head of group training, the entire company, this company had about 20 or 30 gyms. This woman came in and she was doing this seminar with us, this training with us. And this woman had torn her ACL like 3 times. She was a former athlete. She, you know, was really into fitness, very energetic, very motivational. So being energetic and being motivational is definitely a factor of being a good coach or trainer, but it's not the only factor. I'd much rather, at least if I was hiring someone to train me, I would want someone who knew what they were talking about. I could care less about motivational. I motivate myself. Right. But I want someone that knows what they're doing. Ideally, you have someone that does both. Someone that can motivate and and also knows what they're doing. But in
Right.
this case, in many cases, you get very motivational people that have no real substance behind it. And they do things just to do them, to make you sweat or to make you hurt.
Correct.
And they don't really, not really to improve you. And I just remember this individual, and I remember asking her afterward. And so what happened is she told us she had just torn her ACL for like the third time, and she was doing a workout with us. And she was bragging about what a beast she was because she was doing this workout with a torn ACL. So that she was actually bragging about this. And I'm sitting there going like, I don't understand why you'd be bragging about how tough you are doing a workout with an injury.
Right.
And then I asked her, I said, how'd you get this injury? Oh, I was doing side squats, or she called them side lunges, so she had the wrong name for the exercise too. But she shows me how she was doing it, and I took one look, and I'm like, no wonder you, I didn't say this to her, but I said, no wonder you tore your ACL, you're doing it wrong. She was putting all the weight, I don't know if you know what a side squat is, but it's a movement in which your legs are splayed, usually beyond shoulder width, and you keep one leg straight as you squat back and down onto the other leg. So this individual, like when you squat, okay, when you're squatting in the gym, your weight should be into the heel of the foot primarily. Okay, I usually say like a 40-60 split, 60% in the heel, 40% in the ball of the foot, and your hips are going to sit back. She was putting all the weight in her toe and putting all this into the knee, which is exactly what you don't do. So I'm sitting there watching this. I'm like, yeah, no wonder you tore your ACL. You don't know what you're doing.
Right.
And when she was instructing us and teaching us deadlift and all these power lifts and Olympic lifts she was getting into as well, she was teaching them wrong. So she was teaching us how to do Olympic and power lifts incorrect, that then we were supposed to do them wrong, and do them in an environment for speed, because that's what this course was. They were essentially introducing their own small group training program that would be using heart rate monitors. That's the new fitness phase right now, the new fad, using heart rate monitors for everything.
Yes.
So that was the new thing they were doing, and I'm sitting there going like, this woman should not be teaching this. She doesn't know what she's doing. She's hurting herself. I'm sure she's hurt clients as well, and now she's teaching all these trainers to do this stuff wrong and to do it fast. So this is why...
But you got to remember, too, people like her.
People love her. She was well loved. She was, and again, she was friendly. She was motivational. She was energetic. I'm sure she made money for the company. She was attractive. She had a lot of things going for her. She looked good. She looked fit. But at the end of the day, she didn't know what she was doing. And when you have, I'm pretty sure she said it was her third ACL. Regardless, she's had multiple injuries. When that's happening, you gotta take a second and say, okay, why is this happening? It's like some people, they're like, oh, I'm a great driver, but I've gotten into 4 car accidents this year, and you have to go, whoa.
Yeah.
Was it you, or what was going on? Maybe you weren't at fault, but what were you doing to be involved in these car accidents? Because if you're doing something a lot, you have to start wondering, is it everyone else or is it you?
Right. Absolutely. No, absolutely. And usually with that, if it happens to you multiple times, it is you. I just believe that. I put the onus on that person. Now, this person that's getting hurt, you're instructing people to be a beast. Now, again, I push because that's just a certain... I have that mentality to push. But at the same time, there's a difference between pushing and being stupid. And a lot of times with people when they're working out, they think if I push too hard, I'm going to get hurt. You probably won't. But if you push to the extreme level for 10 years, well, yes, you are going to get hurt. But that's why your workout shouldn't just be all hard. It should be a mixture of soft. The yin and yang component. There should be a counterbalance. Your training is supposed to improve you. And this is the thing. I was thinking about this today. I'm glad you brought this up. People train as if they're never going to age. So they base their workouts on, let me be the person in the moment that I want to be. Fitness is a long game. Fitness is when you think of sports is, for say anywhere between 3 to 20 years. Just say on average 3 to 20, depending on the sport. It could be even longer than that. Right? Those athletes, once they stop playing their sport, a lot of them will get out of shape because they worked out based off a certain fitness lifespan. Most people that work out in gyms work out on a short fitness lifespan. While I'm here, because you don't know, tomorrow's not promised, I'm going to go as hard as I can. But then suppose you're one of the few, one of the people that lives to be about 90 something. You've aged your body so much and deconditioned your body so much, you can't even enjoy those latter years. So, my thing is, train as if you're going to be doing this for the rest of your life. And when you think like that, your whole mentality is going to change. Because you're like, you know what? I don't need to rush. I don't need to rush the process. I'll take it slower. I'll take a few steps back to get miles upon miles forward.
That's an excellent point. I've had clients come in, and these individuals, they were in such a rush to get to a certain goal. And, sometimes they had a certain day. Maybe they had a wedding date or something, and they wanted to fit into a dress. But, that was only a very, very small percentage of the people. So I always say, what's the end goal? What are you rushing towards? I said, I'm all for pushing hard. The key thing, though, is pushing hard when you're training smart.
Yes.
If you're training foolishly and you're doing stuff that's going to cause a problem and you're pushing, well, now you're just stacking extra exercise on top of dysfunction, and you're going to eventually, something's got to give. If you're training very smart, if your program makes sense, if you have proper recovery time, if you're progressing at a proper level, you're going to get great results, and you're never going to have sidebacks, or very rarely will you have sidebacks. A lot of people that I've worked with, they push hard, they hurt themselves, they're out for a few months, they lose everything they gained, then they're so panicked because they've been out of the game for so long, now they come back, they push hard again, and they hurt themselves again, and they get this cycle, and they become these binge fitness people, where I see them, they're in the gym, they're going hard, they do this whole thing, they hit the goal they want, and then they're like, oh yeah, I did it, and now they back off from the gym. Maybe they meet someone, maybe they get into a relationship, now they feel they're looking good, then they let themselves go again. Everything starts to fall apart, they get back into their old ways, eating unhealthy, partying, then this relationship ends, and they go, okay, well, time to get back in the gym. So, and I've seen that so many times. I know a lot of people that they're constantly doing this binge purge with fitness. And personally, I don't think it's physically or psychologically healthy. So, anytime you do a training program, my recommendation would be stick with the program. Consistency. You don't always have to push super hard. As long as you're pushing yourself a little bit further each time, that's what it is. That's what progressive overload is. And that's one of the fundamental concepts of training. There's this old story, I'm forgetting the guy's name. It's this old Greek story of this individual, and he used to, apparently it's a true story. Apparently he was actually an Olympic athlete. And to prepare for the Olympics, he decided he was going to start carrying this baby calf.
Is it Milos?
Yes, Milos. Yes, I couldn't remember if that was it. This guy, what he did was he would carry this calf around. I think he would carry it up a mountain.
Yes.
And he would carry it up the mountain every day. And every day, the calf would continue to grow because it's an animal. It was a baby animal. It kept growing. So every day, maybe it was a couple pounds heavier. And by the end of the training session, or by the end of his training period, and the Olympics came around, the story was he came walking into the Olympic Stadium carrying a full-grown bull on his back. And to me, that is the perfect story of progressive overload. The ancient Greeks knew it. This has been going on forever. It was you do a little bit more each time. That's all you have to do. It doesn't matter if you increase your bench press 2.5 pounds every other week.
Right.
As long as you keep improving at 2.5 pounds, that's it. You don't need to, I'm adding another 45 today. Why?
Right.
Why are you adding another 90 pounds by putting a 45-pound plate on each side? There's no need.
Right. And if you max out, so what? So what? You max out. You can't do anymore. You've improved.
You've improved, and that's it. And then once you finally plateau, you can always change up your system. And that's the whole thing. To be honest, you should always be training your training system enough that you're not bored, so you still enjoy training, and that you're continuously progressing. You never even hit that plateau. I think if you hit the plateau, you've been doing something for too long. You should never even hit that point, in my opinion. You should be constantly varying things, that you're constantly enjoying yourself and constantly moving forward. So we talked a little bit about the whole group training thing. For an individual that's interested in becoming a group trainer. Let's say you want to get into that world. I see this a lot. A lot of people, many times, people, they're not training. Some people have been training since they were kids. They were always athletes. But for a lot of people, they weren't. Maybe somewhere along the line when they're in college or post-college age, they decide they want to get into training, maybe because they don't like how they're looking, whatever it is. They start exercising, they start enjoying it, they get really into it, they're very enthusiastic about it, maybe not too educated on it, and then they go, I want to do this, I want to work on the side. So they either become a certified personal trainer, where they just kind of do what they've been doing with people, or they get into group fitness, and they start doing that, and then work into becoming a personal trainer or a strength coach eventually, some people. So it's not a bad path to take. I think there's certain educational things that you need to look at along the way to make sure that your enthusiasm is backed with credible knowledge. And to be honest, a personal training cert is a joke. I'll just throw it out there.
Absolutely.
It's better than nothing, don't get me wrong, but I got my first personal training certification. I was 18 years old. I never even bought the textbook. I went to the 3-day... Now, granted, I did a lot of reading on my own, but I went to the 3-day workshop, studied for about 2 weeks, and I passed. Maybe, if it was even 2 weeks, maybe it was a week. It wasn't that hard. They're really going to get very minimal information in a personal training. It's the bare minimum, okay? It's not the standard. It's like the minimum. Like, pretty much teaches you how to not get sued and the very basics of movement and a couple exercises. Even the Strength and Conditioning certification, the CSCS by the National Strength and Conditioning Association. A lot more information than the personal training cert, but there was really no practical component. Don't get me wrong, there's a lot of good info, and if you have a strength and conditioning background and you've had good coaching, then you know how to do the stuff. But to be honest, I thought I was doing a lot of stuff correct for most of my training, well, not training career, but most of my athletic career when I was younger. And it wasn't until I took these graduate classes at the University of Miami in strength and conditioning that I really took my training to the next level and really considered myself a more knowledgeable trainer. There's so many subtle aspects to the Olympic and power lifts that most people never get. They never understand because they watch a video and they don't actually learn from a professor, someone who has a PhD in the field, who's worked as a strength and conditioning coach for years and is really perfected and publishes in both the scientific world and also writes textbooks. So most people are not doing these kinds of lifts properly, and it can be a danger, especially if you're trying to do heavy weights with these things, or if you're doing them in a high speed environment. And then again, if you haven't really been formally trained and now you're training other people, that's kind of a problem. One thing that the martial arts do very well is you get tested. When you go to your next belt, you are tested. If you want to become a trainer, you have to be a certain belt level before you're even allowed to start teaching. There's a lot of accreditations you have to go through before. Now, granted, some people criticize and they say it varies place to place, and some martial arts gyms are not up as the other ones, but they actually make you do it. Same thing with yoga. You have to do a 200-hour class, for that 200 class. Well, there's different types of certifications, but that's like the bare minimum to be part of the Yoga Association. So, to be honest, trainers have some of the lowest gradations that they have to really cover before they can become a trainer. You can pretty much do an online course and become a trainer and be teaching people stuff without ever even setting foot in the gym and learning how to do anything properly. So it's kind of, I know I asked a question, I almost answered part of it, but I kind of talked a little bit about the personal training cert. Could you talk a little bit more about the group training cert, what that entails, and what you think of it, and maybe how it could even be approved on, or what other resources you could use to improve yourself as a group trainer beyond that initial certification?
Okay, so now with the Group X certification, what you do is there's a written part, and there's usually a practical part. The practical part is you have to act it out. You got to see, can you teach on a beat? And again, it's a great skill to know because it just gives you different ideas. Not saying that you should teach like that, but what I'm saying is it just gives you something to think about. Sometimes having a skill in something that you may never use is better than not having it, because it can give you ideas and ways to improve the skills that you would use more. So having that aspect down, make sure you're able to teach and able to cue and progressions, because how they teach, how you're supposed to be taught, at least the way I was taught. You start at an intermediate level, which is, like say like a level 2. Say you do it on 3 level tiers, so like beginner, intermediate, advanced. And then you bring it down to a level 1 for those that are new, and bring it up for the level 3 for those that could do it, and then keep it a level 2, which to me, I'm like, that makes sense for a general fitness. That makes sense. But at the same time, someone's level 2 may be somebody else's level 3 or somebody else's level 1. So it's like you gotta walk that line too. I would tell anyone, I would say, get certified first as a trainer, and then continue there in your knowledge and education first. Then venture into group X. Because if you, that's one way to do it. If you do go in a group exercise route first, I would say brush up on your knowledge aside from group exercise, and take ideas, because there's a lot of times now they can teach you kettlebells in a group exercise setting. Now you're teaching kettlebells to a beat. You're teaching Olympic lifts to a beat. When it's like, all right, why don't you learn the skill set first? Then where it's like, all right, you may have to go off beat. Like, all right, we're going off beat today. This is a skill set here that I'm going to show you. And also too, but and one thing I could say is, you also have to know who you're teaching for. Certain places where I teach at, I can't teach them the same way that I could teach at other gyms. I just can't, because they're not conditioned that way. They're not built that way. And it's not a knock on them. It's just that they have more limitations against them. And it doesn't serve them good if I'm teaching everybody the same way. So you can't be cookie cutter in how you approach it. Neither should you be cookie cutter in training. Hopefully you're not cookie cutter in life, but that really depends on, the character of the person. So I would just say with it, do your homework, do your research, find a mentor, find someone you respect in that field also, and see what they're doing. But choose your mentors wisely, because you could be, someone could bring you up the river. That doesn't mean they're going to bring you in a path of water. They could bring you somewhere and all of a sudden it gets dry, and it's like, okay, I kind of picked the wrong person to emulate, in a positive sense. You can see that person like, you know what? Well, I would never do anything that this person's doing. How do I improve what that person's doing for me? So you always got to look at that whenever you find a mentor.
So a couple more questions regarding group training, just for those that are listening that might be interested. What organizations provide the certification? How long does it take to get certified as a group training instructor? And how much does it usually cost, approximately? I'm sure it varies.
It does vary. AFA is the certification I have. AFA is the one that...
What does it stand for?
The Aerobic and Fitness Association of America. And with AFA, they've been around. They were the first certification. At least that's the claim. And when it comes to group exercise, again, they're doing it a certain way. So if you want to be that instructor that's teaching to a beat and everything like that, again, I'm not knocking it. It just doesn't work for me. If that's your path in fitness, then definitely do your homework that way and go through AFA. Now, the cost does vary. There's different, how can I put it? There's like different promotions that they may have. I got mine in a cheaper setting because I did it through the company. Also, your gym, if you're working at a gym, they may give you a percentage off of it. They may not. So anywhere, I can't give you a definitive answer. I would just say Google AFA, AFAA, and then do your research there and see what certification you would want to use.
Would you say it's like a few $100?
Yes, I would say it's a few hundred. Yeah, good point, Mark. Okay. I would say it's over $100 plus. I would say it's that. $100 plus. And I could just start there. Again, I can't tell you exactly what it is.
And how long does it take usually?
That
weekend or?
when I did it a few times actually, because again, like like when it comes to testing, at least back then, I wasn't a home run hitter, and certain things took a while for me to process with it. So a weekend usually, a 2-day workshop. 2-day workshop. You can buy the material, study on your own, and then take the test also. You can do it that way.
So another topic I want to kind of deviate into, we've discussed this many times, the idea of what I call fitness entertainment. And today there's kind of this growing world with social media where people want to be kind of entertained. And there's a lot of fitness videos out there that they're not real training. They're more just like stunts, fitness stunts that individuals are doing to get, sometimes just to kind of bragging rights, or sometimes to get likes on Instagram or YouTube. So it's an interesting thing. And to be honest, I think there's an element of fitness entertainment within personal training and within group exercise. I think when someone goes to a personal trainer or goes to a group exercise class, they want to be entertained. There is a level of entertainment that they want. They're not just going for the training. They're going for you. They're going for your personality, your persona, your overall vibe, and the whole energy of the class. And that's one of the reasons why so many people are drawn to group classes and many of the different gyms that have been popping up that have kind of a group training structure. And each of these gyms have kind of a different mentality, a different culture to them. If you look at Orange Theory, CrossFit, a lot of different group training structures, and again, the different vibes, but people are kind of drawn to these cultures, and it's not just the training they want, it's the entire atmosphere and the entertainment behind it. So, Star J, what are your thoughts on the idea of fitness entertainment, how it's going, what it is? Again, there's some positives as well as negatives. I know sometimes people take a little too far with some of the videos they post. But what are your thoughts on some of the things you've seen and the direction it's going?
Okay, fitness entertainment is interesting because, again, it's one of the things where I feel at fault at times with it. Again, I'm not a trainer to that level, so I'm not saying that I created that also. But when I started out training, again, in my location, I was doing things that were considered flashy, that were appealing to the eye. And a lot of it was stuff that I had seen. There was a show called UFC All Access, and I saw like the MMA fighters training a certain way. And from there, I just let my imagination take over, along with another show called NBA Fit. I was seeing what these guys were doing, and I'm like, okay, I could put my own spin on that. I can create something from this thing. It's the ability to see one thing but see more, or the saying, a wise man can hear one word but understand two. I could do that. That's just my personality type. So with fitness entertainment, I noticed as I was doing that, certain clients were telling other trainers, I just want a basic workout. I kind of don't want the flash. And I was like, wow, you just wanted like a standard workout? They were like, yeah, that's what they wanted. So I scaled back. And as I started scaling back, I started refining myself and started doing other things and started studying, different sources. And then I saw the quality of fitness entertainment go down as the flash started to rise to a point where it was almost unrecognizable. And nowadays it's great that people are moving. It's poor in how people are moving. It's great you're doing something, but at the same time, maybe you're doing too much. I don't need to see you do a backflip before you deadlift. Not that I'm not impressed by the flip. Not that I'm impressed by the deadlift, but like people like peanut butter and jelly, some people like pizza. You don't need it together. They can be separate entities that serve. You don't need to bring it together. But I just think we're a shock value society also, and we're tribal. We're tribal that way. So our tribal existence clings to it because it's the fire factor. let me put my hand by the fire before I get burned, just so I could feel the heat. I could do this backflip and deadlift, but there's going to be a time where I'm doing so many backflips that when I do that deadlift wrong, I'm going to mess them up, or I'm going to miss that backflip. Not saying a backflip isn't a great skill. They're both great skills, but really do what you're doing. If you want to just I'm just going to do whatever I want to do, YOLO, as they say, you only live once, or whatever have you. And again, I don't know that. I don't have that answer. Then, by all means, do it. But the people that I feel, it's funny that the people that do these feats are the ones that are always complaining about injuries. And they're like, oh no, I'll just work through it. And it goes back to what I was saying before. You're training as if you're not going to see tomorrow. Train today to have a better tomorrow, even though tomorrow isn't promised to you.
I think a big part of that, it's a great point. It comes down to, what's your purpose? You have to ask yourself, why are you training? Do you just want to look good today, or do you want to look good for the rest of your life? Or is your goal trying to build up your Instagram account? And, maybe your way of doing that is by doing crazy, feats of strength or just bizarre exercises to gain attraction. I've seen multiple videos of young women deadlifting in high heels, and I don't think a single one ended well. I think in several of them they broke the stiletto, and a couple of them look like they broke their ankle. So what's the point of deadlifting in high heels? There's no functional factor. There's really nothing behind it. It's just it won't have any positive effect that I can think of. I can understand maybe if you're an individual who is a model or does some kind of performance, some kind of dancer that has to wear high heels. I can understand practicing walking or practicing certain moves in your high heels, but a heavy loaded exercise like a deadlift in the high heels, I just don't see the applicability, especially at the risk of that kind of injury. I see people trying to combine exercises to the point they don't make sense. There's this big movement of using Olympic lifts paired with other things. Doing an Olympic lift into a backflip, or doing a box jump snatch or a box jump clean. It just doesn't make sense. It's when you actually look at the transfer of power and energy that required to move the weight, and then the way you're trying to incorporate that into the jump itself, you're kind of becoming counterproductive, right, where you're not training a consistent flow of energy.
Right. It's a bad science experiment.
Yeah. It's not only is it dangerous, it's not beneficial.
Right.
There's no. I'm a little more cut and dry. Don't get me wrong. I like making training fun when someone's ready, but I tend to be a little more cut and dry. I kind of use Fulcum's razor. Cut out the bullshit. That's kind of my methodology. Right. I know people are limited on their time and their energy, so let's focus on the most important things that are really going to yield a positive result and get you to reaching your goal as fast as possible.
Right.
I don't need to just do silly stuff, that could potentially set you back.
Right.
What's the other one? There's the box jump clean. There's
which I haven't seen, by the way.
Burpee snatch now.
Burpee snatch?
Yeah, it's like you do
a
burpee
how do
into a snatch. Again, and I think we discussed the foolishness of the burpee exercise, or the not burpee exercise in a previous podcast.
Yeah.
But the burpee of today is not the burpee that the guy Burpee came up with.
Yeah.
And the burpee was never meant to be an exercise to train people. It was supposed to be a measure of fitness, but it was testing squats and testing your ability to hold a plank position.
Right.
And do it at a slow 4 count repetitively. So it was just holding, moving endurance for squats and planks.
Right.
That's what it was. It wasn't about, there was no jumping, there was no push-up, there was no doing it for speed. And with it, we come all this issues with the position of the pelvis and this deformity of the spine and the herniation of the lower of the lumbar vertebrae, of the discs of the lumbar spine. So it's counterintuitive to what it even once was. It's not even what it was. It's become something else. I see a lot of people doing cleans but they're so wrong, you can't even call them a clean. I call them a dirty. I said, they're doing a dirty over there. And the sad truth is, the majority of people doing these exercises are doing them wrong. Or at least, I don't like using the word wrong. Let me recant that. They're doing it in a way that is ineffective and detrimental.
Right.
There's no real right or wrong. Okay? You can do whatever you want. Go for it. But some things are just going to be less effective and have greater detriment to your body. So those are the things I try to shy away from. For me, it's about precision and accuracy. If you're an athlete, precision and accuracy are part of the game. It's not about who can do something in a sloppy, terrible fashion.
Right.
When you're looking at a football player running down the field, he needs to be precise and accurate with his footwork, his movements. If you're sloppy, who cares how many times you can throw the ball if the ball's not accurate?
Right.
Who cares how well you can run down the field if you can't get yourself in the right position, or once you catch the ball, stay in field?
Efficiency and effectiveness are better than that's one thing I could tell you just from my experience with martial arts, that we would throw punches and kicks, numerous punches and kicks for like 3 minutes. And I'm exhausted. I'm like, you know what? When I spar people, I don't throw that much volume. That's, I guess you're kind of getting an idea of like if we sparred how, it would be. But, I'm just free to share that. It would be, throwing enough volume to be effective. More so than just throwing 300 punches in 3 minutes.
Those punches aren't landing.
Right.
It doesn't matter how many you're throwing. Just go out there and throw punches and waste energy.
Right. Is
that going to help you win the fight?
Right. But if I throw 300 punches over a training period, say it's, say for example, right? Say you're doing like 300 punches in 3 minutes. That's just going to fatigue me. Maybe 10 of my punches work. But say within a week I throw 300 punches. That's a little different. Because that time I'm training that pattern to be strong and efficient every time I throw it. I would rather that. Sometimes less is more. And Mark he just told me a whole bunch of new exercises that I never heard of, and
I wouldn't even call them exercises. They're I would call it entertainment. A couple, feats of entertainment.
Right. And the thing too, it's great that these people can do it. Again, if you want to test the limits of yourself, like I heard I was hearing about this guy that, these marathon runners, like how these, people, like they're doing so much cardio and like, obviously, the training they're doing, it's great the feat, but the long-term effects are damaging. And again, there's some people that, they're going to say, oh, but I've ran this, for years and I have no effects. Okay. You're the unicorn. You're the anomaly. And people are fascinated by the anomaly also. We live in a society where the anomaly is, because we want to feel like, again, we are all special in our own way. But there's a lot of superheroes. There's only one Superman. There was only one Superman. Nothing wrong with being Batman. Nothing wrong with being Green Lantern. I don't know if, for the comic book people out there, there's nothing wrong with that. You just have to know you have to maximize yourself. Learn the game, break the rules, like I said. Emulate parts of someone's game, but you also have to, genetics do play. Someone can do certain exercises that are all, that are detrimental and not be broken down right away, where you could do it once, and like, oh, I'm out for 6 months. All right, that lets you know there's high risk there. They built that up. Now that person performing a high risk task, a high risk feat, yeah, they're not injured now. Wait till they're about like 40 or 50, and they're like, you know what? I don't want to do steroids anymore. I don't want to do this, because that's another thing. The performance enhancing drugs, the PEDs, and fitness is also what's giving a lot of these people that edge. It's like you're comparing yourself. You're comparing your generic car to like a souped up race car, a Formula One race car. You can't compare it. You can't. You can emulate certain things where it's like, all right, wow, this person's really strong. All right, I need to get stronger. Keep it that general. all right, this person's endurance is really, really good. I gotta up my endurance. Not, all right, I gotta emulate that exercise with the same amount of weight and do it the same way that person did it. No, you haven't walked those steps yet. You're seeing the end result. Even though it's a bad foundation, but you're seeing the end result of that bad foundation, not the steps it took to get there.
Yeah, it's very true. You see some of these feats out there, and I almost feel like they should just put a disclaimer out there. Like say, hey, listen, I'm going to do this feat of strength, but I've been a gymnast for 15 years, so I know how to properly do this. So that's why I'm able to do this crazy exercise, or hey, I take anabolic steroids, so this is why I'm able to do this kind of thing. I feel like there should be some disclaimers on these videos, because granted, people won't do that because it's illegal, but I think the problem is when you have average people who are trying to do these things. They're doing stuff that stuntmen, people that are trained and have been doing this for years are doing, and you have average people trying to do these crazy feats, and it's risky. And to be honest, it's not going to help them reach their goal. And this is something that people so often kind of get convoluted. They say, okay, my goal is to lose 15 pounds. I want to reduce my body fat by whatever percentage, and I want to build this much lean muscle mass. Okay, great goals. But then the program that they're doing isn't specific for reaching those goals.
Right.
They get caught up in, well, all I need to do is sweat. So the more I sweat and the more I hurt, the closer to my goal I'm getting. And that's not necessarily true.
Right.
You can go sit in a sauna, put on a full pair of sweatshirt, sweatpants, sit in a sauna, and you're going to probably sweat more than you ever had in your entire life.
Right.
But did you get a good workout? No, of course not.
Right.
You didn't work out at all. You just sat there. So people misconstrue sweating as being an indicator of a good workout.
Right.
I used to have people in the gym sometimes complain. They say, oh, it's too cold in here. I can't sweat. And I thought to myself, well, if anything, you should be happy about that. Right. You're retaining more water.
Right.
It means you can work out for longer.
Right.
You can get a better workout and burn more calories. Plus, the colder environment's going to pull more heat out of you.
Right.
So you're gonna lose. You're gonna burn more calories, lose more heat to the environment, and you're gonna get a better workout.
Right.
And yet these people were complaining because they were so caught up on the idea that how much they were sweating was indicative of how good of a workout they had, when the two were not related at all. Granted, the point of sweating is to reduce your body temperature. That is the purpose of sweating. So yes, if you are getting a great workout and your core temperature is elevating, you're going to sweat. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying sweating doesn't say anything, but like I said, you can be sitting in a sauna and be sweating more than you've ever sweat in your life, and yet you're not getting any kind of workout in. And this kind of concept of kind of missing the forest of the trees with training is too common. The same thing with energy systems. People think that as long as they're toasted and they're burnt out, they're getting a good workout. As long as they're hurting. But does that necessarily mean you're getting a good workout? Usually for weight loss, you want a lower intensity exercise that's hitting you a little more in the oxidative energy system. You don't want to be going to those high energy systems because you're actually not going to be burning fat. You're going to be burning a higher percentage of carbohydrates and protein than you will be burning fat in some of these. They call them training zones, and that's when they use the heart rate monitors. I don't always like to put such a label on it because I think everyone's system is a little bit different in how it operates, and it's all formulas. It's not. There's a science to it, but it doesn't seem to be an exact science. But the concepts are still there. If you're just burning yourself out and going hard all the time, if you're a power lifter, yeah, I'm sure if you're dieting is good and you're eating properly, I'm sure you can still reduce your body fat from doing powerlifting. However, you're not going to be burning as much fat as you would training just the phosphate energy system as if you would if you were training your oxidative energy system, because that's the only the oxidative energy system is the only energy system that can burn fat. You have to oxidize it. So, there's certain things that we kind of, again, we miss the forest of the trees. We see these TV shows like The Biggest Loser, but it turns out what you see on the show is only what they do for the show. And the rest of the time, they're not actually doing those kinds of workouts. They're doing much more low-intensity stuff because that's what's really going to help. So when you have a goal, you always need a goal in training. Some people tell me, I'm just here for fun. Like, no, you're not. Like, cut the crap.
Right.
You're here for a reason. No one just comes in. Granted, I enjoy training, and it is fun for me, but I always have a purpose.
Right.
You need a purpose. Find your purpose. Pick a goal. Sometimes having competitions or things are a good way to stay motivated. That's why I think so many people are doing so many young women are doing the bikini competitions now. I'm not saying I necessarily think it's the healthiest thing to do, but if that's something you want to do, go for it. If that's a way to stay motivated. Some people are doing obstacle races. They do the Spartan run or the mud run or these different things. Some people want to train for a 5K. Now, granted, the training you're going to do is going to be different, but if that's a way for you to stay motivated, powerlifting competition, whatever it is, that's fine. But know how to properly train for that and make sure you're doing the right stuff so you'll be ready, unless you're just doing it for fun and just a way to kind of keep you on path in the gym. But you need a goal. And once you have a goal, you need to have the program that's going to get you to that goal. Just haphazardly going in there isn't going to get you to where you want to go. I use the analogy of cooking. If you want to bake a cake, you're not just going to grab a bunch of random ingredients, throw it in a pot, mix it around, throw it in the oven. There is a precise formula. Now, there's different formulas you can use. There isn't one perfect formula, but cakes need certain ingredients. You can sub those ingredients for certain things, but there's a certain process. You don't make a cake by putting it in a pot, and you don't cook a cake like a soup. You're not going to bake a cake the way you'd make a soup, or the way you would cut up and create a fresh salad. These are different foods, but the process behind making them is very different, and the ingredients that are put into them are very different. So I always use the analogy, cooking up a workout. When you're creating a workout, you're like a chef. Every exercise that you do can be an ingredient. The amount of repetitions you do or how quick you do them could be how big are the pieces of the ingredient. How much of the ingredient, how big are the pieces? Are you chopping the carrots small or the carrots whole? What are you doing with those ingredients? And then also how you put the workout together. What's the order of the workout? What's the order of the cooking? What do you cook first? What do you do last? So really think about the purpose of your training. It's great to work out. It's great to train. It's great to do different things if that's what you're into. If you have a less specified goal, if you're not an Olympic 100-meter sprinter, then yeah, your workout can be a little more varied. If you're just going to have fun or you want to have fun but also stay fit and healthy, that's fine. But define that goal and design your program to match that goal. And if you don't know how to design that program, well, that's when you're supposed to hire someone that can design that program for you. Because to be honest, not everyone has the time to learn and study to be able to design ideal programs for themselves. So that is understandable, and that's why people in my career exist. That's why the strength and conditioning coach exists, so you can have a workout. And again, some people don't even want to, they just want to go to a workout and not even think about it. And that's when, group exercise can be good. You can just walk in and say, okay, the class is at this time, show up if you want, and you can go. So that's fine too. But again, define your goal and cook up the right workout to match that goal.
That was well put. Mark, do you have anything else to share? Because that was amazing.
What else do I have to share? I don't know. We covered a lot today. And any other things you wanted to go over? Any last words of wisdom? Things you wanted to discuss?
One of the best form of advice that I have received actually wasn't directly. It was from Eddie Murphy on Inside Act Studio. It was he was talking about how he took it. He's like, the best advice he can give any comic or anybody starting out is not to take advice. And so for what he said was, Rodney Dangerfield told him, and Rodney Dangerfield is a legendary comedian. Very old school stand-up, a traditional stand-up that just stood up and just told his jokes. And he was like, "Hey kid, you're a little too dirty. You got to clean up the act," right? When he started out. A few years later, Eddie Murphy's just, he's Eddie Murphy. He's in Vegas. They're both in the bathroom. Dangerfield goes to the bathroom. Eddie Murphy's getting out. He's like, "Hey kid, who knew?" Because he told him, he's like, "Hey, listen, if you would have listened to me, your career probably wouldn't win another trajectory." So you have to know your course. And that's what I mean by don't take any advice that way. Seek information, seek knowledge, seek education. Don't just seek advice. Because advice could be anything. But seek education, seek knowledge, definitely seek knowledge. That's all I'll say. Seek knowledge. Just don't seek useless information.
That's an excellent point. I think sometimes we forget the difference between fact and fiction. What's an opinion and what's actually based on fact.
Right.
Granted, there's a lot of anecdotal evidence in this field. There's peer-reviewed evidence, but sometimes creating the peer-reviewed structure to test certain things sometimes is challenging. And I think many times people that are creating the tests are not in the gym.
Right.
A lot of people that work in exercise science don't actually step foot in the gym. So there's a big disconnect there. But I think that's an excellent point. It's okay to listen to opinions, but just remember they're opinions.
Right.
And don't get too caught up in what an opinion is. A lot of the stuff we talked about today, we really didn't get into any nitty-gritty science. We talked a little bit about energy systems and a little bit of physiology stuff, but most of it was more opinion-based. So, feel free to take it or leave it. These are just some of our thoughts, some of the things that we've seen over the years in the field. And really, listen to it if you want or not, and do with it what you see fit. We're just trying to provide a little information, a little guidance, I think. I think there's... I just, looking back, I wish I had a little more guidance in the field. What the training field really is. The difference between knowing training and then knowing how to work in the field of training. So I think any guidance I can provide for people that are, new and getting started in training or strength and conditioning, I think could be beneficial. So hopefully you find it beneficial. If not, well, hope you didn't waste your time. But I hope I'm sure you learned a little something either way. So thanks for tuning in, guys. Star J, great to have you here.
My brother Mark, always a pleasure, my man.
Always a pleasure. I'm glad we finally got to sit down and actually record one of our discussions. Too bad the last 100 discussions we had weren't recorded.
Yes.
But a lot of good stuff we covered. Thanks again for tuning in, guys, and stay tuned in the future for more Strength Coach Friedman podcasts.